Hotep, Shalom, Salem, Ashe, all the other many ways there are out there to simply say the word peace. You know, we have to start off every single show with a song. So without any further ado, let's get started, you all.
The sooner you give, the sooner you get to have a love of your own. The longer it takes, the better you come to know a love of your own. Don't you be afraid to give your heart. Never know till you try it. Don't deny it to yourself. Don't you be afraid. Walk right on in. Don't stand it open. You know I'm always hoping. The sooner you give, the sooner you get to have a love of your own. As far as you go, you're never too far behind a love of your own. Don't you be afraid to shoot the moon. Never know till you try it. Don't deny it to yourself. Don't you be afraid to change your tune. The offer's always open. You know I'm always hoping. You know I'm always hoping for a love of my own to shelter me from the cold. A love of my own. A love of my own. The traffic will always fail. A love of my own. Yes, it will. A love of my own. You're never too far behind. A love of your own. You never know. Try. A love of my own to shelter me from the cold. A love of my own. That's what I need. A love of my own. Traffic will always fail. A love of my own. A love of my own. Never too far behind. A love of your own. Keep on moving.
Say that no one should ever undergo any great or important undertaking without first invoking the blessing of their supreme being. So, first of all is. First within all praise is due to the Most High. We currently doing this show in Nashville, Tennessee, and last night at about 12:45, a tornado touched down in Nashville and caused a lot of damage. So just feel like everybody, all of the families in Nashville, Tennessee, their thoughts. Experiment. Let's get started. An experiment is a scientific procedure undertaken to make a discovery, test a hypothesis, or demonstrate a known fact. That's the noun version. The verb version is perform a scientific procedure, especially in the laboratory, to determine something. So let's look up the etymology of this word, why don't we? It says it comes from the Latin word experere. We're not even going to try to, you all can see it. And it means to try, which became the Latin word experimentum, which became the word experiment as we know it. So what it means to experiment is to try something, right? So with that being said, I have an experiment we want everyone to look up. It's called the 21 grams experiment. The 21 grams experiment refers to a scientific study published in 1907 by Duncan McDougall, a physician from Haverhill, Massachusetts. McDougall hypothesized that souls have physical weight and attempted to measure the mass lost by a human when the soul departed the body. Word. Let's check this out. Let's see what Wikipedia has to say about this. The 21 grams experiment refers to a scientific study. Yes. McDougall attempted to measure the mass change of 6 patients at the moment of death. One of the 6 subjects lost 3/4 of an ounce, 21.3 grams. McDougall stated his experiment would have to be repeated many times before any conclusion could be obtained. The experiment is widely regarded as flawed and unscientific due to the small sample size, the methods used, as well as the fact only one of the 6 subjects met the hypothesis. The case has been cited as an example of selective reporting. Despite its rejection within the scientific community, McDougall's experiment popularized the concept that the soul has weight, and specifically that it weighs 21 grams. Wow. Okay, question number 1. When did they say that this experiment took place? It says the scientific study of it was published in 1907. When did, in 1901, let's find out. In 1901, Duncan McDougall, a physician from Haverhill, Michigan. So it says in 1901, identified 6 patients in nursing homes whose deaths were imminent. That means immediately. 4 were suffering from tuberculosis, 1 from diabetes, and 1 from an unspecified cause. McDougall specifically chose people who were suffering from the conditions that cause physical exhaustion, as he needed the patients to remain still when they died to measure them accurately. When the patients looked like they were close to death, the entire bed was placed on an industrial-sized scale that was sensitive within 0.2 of an ounce. On the belief that humans have souls and that animals do not, McDougall later measured the changes in weight from 15 dogs after death. McDougall said he wished to use dogs that were sick or dying from his experiment, though was unable to find any. It is therefore presumed he poisoned healthy dogs. Okay. Results. One of the patients lost weight, but then put the weight back on, and 2 of the other patients registered a loss of weight at death, but a few minutes later lost even more weight. One of the patients lost 3/4 of an ounce. Coinciding with the time of death, McDougall disregarded the results of another patient on the grounds the scales were not finely adjusted, and discounted the results of another as the patient died while the equipment was still being calibrated. McDougall reported that none of the dogs lost any weight after death. While McDougall believed that the results from his experiment showed the human soul might have weight, his report, which was not published until 1907, stated the experiment would have to be repeated many times before any conclusion could be obtained. So, this experiment occurred in 1901, but the study wasn't published until 1907. And if you all hear any noise, that's just my daughter. She wants to come in here and record with me. And the study wasn't published until 1907, 6 years later. And this is a picture of this man in 1911. So my first question is, 1, did this experiment continue for the next 6 years until the year 1907, until the scientific study was published? And my next question is, if so, did it continue on past that point? Because here we are in the year 2020, 119 years in the future, right? And it's presumably safe to say that this experiment has continued since 1901, everyone. And not only has it continued since 1901, it's been fine-tuned until then. Oh, my daughter wants to come in here and record with me. So, her mama said no. So with that being said, this is just one experiment that we wanted everybody to look up. Let's check out another experiment while we got time. We got another experiment known as the Philadelphia experiment. Let's have a look-see, why don't we? The Philadelphia experiment is an alleged military experiment supposed to have been carried out by the U.S. Navy at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, sometime around October 28, 1943. The U.S. Navy destroyer escort, USS Eldridge, was claimed to have been rendered invisible or cloaked to enemy devices. The first thing we would like to point out is these words. The first word is alleged. Then the next one is supposed. And then the next one is sometime. Someone intentionally put these three words in here to completely deny anything. When you put an alleged, then you say supposed, then you say sometime. That means, yeah. The story first appeared in 1955 in letters of unknown origin sent to a writer and astronomer, Morris K. Jessup. It is widely understood to be a hoax. The U.S. Navy maintains that no such experiment was ever conducted, that the details of the story contradict well-established facts about the USS Eldridge, and that the alleged claims do not conform to known physical laws. Okay. One, the first thing we would like to point out is that they say that this experiment supposedly took place in 1943. But it says that the story first appeared in 1955. Just pointing something out. The second thing that would like to point out is the fact that one, if this experiment was to have actually taken place, it didn't take place in Philadelphia. It took place in Rhode Island. And if it supposedly did actually take place in Rhode Island, the reason why they say that the facts and evidence don't add up is because someone's obviously calling this a Philadelphian experiment. Giving someone the leeway to completely deny, but that's just one thing. And in 1955, an astronomer and UFO researcher, Morris K. Jessup, the author of the just published book, The Case for the UFO, about an unidentified flying objects and the exotic means of propulsion they might use, received 2 letters from Carlos Miguel Allende, who also identified himself as Carl M. Allen, and another correspondence, who claimed to have witnessed a secret World War II experiment at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. In this experiment, Allende claimed the destroyer escort USS Eldridge was rendered invisible, teleported to New York, teleported to another dimension where it encountered aliens, and teleported through time, resulting in the deaths of several sailors, some of whom were fused with the ship's hull. Jessup dismissed Allende as a crackpot or crackhead. In early 1957, Jessup was contacted by the Office of Naval Research in Washington, D.C., who had received a parcel containing a paperback copy of The Case for the UFO in a manila envelope marked Happy Easter. The book had been extensively annotated in its margins, written with 3 different shades of pink ink, appearing to detail a correspondence among 3 individuals, only one of whom is given a name, Jimmy. The ONR labeled the other 2 Mr. A and Mr. B. The annotators referred to each other as gypsies and discussed 2 different types of people living in outer space. Their text contained non-standard use of capitalization and punctuation, and detailed a lengthy discussion of the merits of various elements of Jessup's assumptions in the book. There were oblique references to the Philadelphia experiment. One example is that Mr. B reassures his fellow annotators, who have highlighted a certain theory which Jessup advanced. Based on the handwriting style and subject matter, Jessup concluded a large part of the writing was Allende's, and others have the same conclusion that 3 styles of annotations are from the same person using 3 different pens. The ONR funded a small printing of 100 copies of the volume by the Texas-based Vero Manufacturing Company, which later became known as the Vero Edition, which the annotations therefore were known as the Vero Annotations. One, what was the point in even saying all of that? Like, really? And 2, what really was the point of you putting this here? What time is it? We think it's about time enough for the end of this episode. So I'll tell you what, everybody. We're gonna do another episode, and you all just stay tuned for that one. And give us feedback and let us know how you all thought about this one. Peace.